Now, before the break, we took a look at the Republican tax proposals and how that they would benefit the wealthy at the expense, frankly, of many in the middle class. Well, my next guest says this would make the income disparity problem this country already have even worse than it already is. Morris Pearl, he's chair of the Patriotic Millionaires. It's a group of hundreds of wealthy people who want a fair system where everybody pays their fair share. He's also the former managing director at BlackRock. Morris, good to talk to you.
Great to be in your show, Richard.
So explain, we ran a clip last segment where there was a bunch of guys, CEOs in a room, Gary Cohn's telling them, and moderator looks out to the audience and says, show of hands, if this tax proposal goes through, how many are going to reinvest the money? Very few, if any, hands shot up. Why do you think that was?
Well, it's because businesses invest money when they see an opportunity to make profits. Having lower tax rates does not change that. They only pay a tax on a percentage of their profits. So if they saw a profitable opportunity before, it's still profitable with lower taxes. And if it wasn't profitable now, it's not going to be profitable after they lower the tax rate either. Lowering taxes does not affect investments. No one's ever made an investment decision because, oh, I'd like to invest this money, but I'll only get to keep 60% of it, so I won't bother. No, that's not true at all.
Another couple of things that I wanted you to help me separate some rhetoric from reality were President said a couple things about this plan and the winners and losers aspect. One, he said, hey, guy like me, I'm going to end up paying more taxes if these things get passed. And the big winners of this could be the middle class. They're going to have more money in their pockets. What's the actual reality?
Well, we can't really talk about the president's taxes because he doesn't release his personal information. The 1 year that his taxes were released, probably by one of his ex-wives, almost all of his taxes were from the alternative minimum tax, and that's being eliminated altogether. So no, I see no evidence whatsoever of that.
You know, I read one of your pieces here, did a good job of explaining this, but we tend to overcomplicate, I think, when people are trying to digest this, when they hear the word reform here, where, no, somebody wins and somebody loses under this plan. But more succinctly, people who work for a living, who get a paycheck every 2 weeks, they're going to do worse under this plan, even if they're successful, than the folks who can turn around and say that I'm investing my money or I'm inheriting my money. They don't end up paying taxes on what they do versus the Joe who's making a paycheck every 2 weeks. To try and debunk some of the mystery surrounding this, explain a little bit of that, whether it relates to working versus inheriting or investing.
Well, look, people who inherit large fortunes pay very little taxes as it is. When somebody like Sam Walton or Forrest Mars built the huge fortunes that became Walmart or Mars Candy, they never, ever paid income tax on that huge fortune they accumulated. Yes, they paid income tax on their salaries, but the billions of dollars of value they created, they never paid tax on that. And under our system, their children who inherited it, 8 of the wealthiest billionaires in the world are the heirs to those fortunes. They never pay tax on it either because they only pay income tax on the amount it goes up between the time their father died and the time it's sold. No one ever pays tax on those fortunes. And the only tax they ever pay is an estate tax, and that they feel it's unfair too and it should be eliminated, according to the president.
Well, according to the president on the estate taxes, though, if I could, Morris, he says, hey, this is really about helping that farmer out there in the Midwest. That's who the estate tax repeal is going to really help. It's not guys like him or his kids.
Well, it'll help him and his kids. Well, it'll help him nothing at all. It'll help his kids inherit billions upon billions of dollars tax-free if what he says is true. There's very few farmers in the Midwest that have farms worth over $11 million. And the estate tax is 0 to 11 million, and then 40% on the amount over 11 million for a family. And that's not a lot of family farms, at least not where I come from, are worth more than $11 million.
You know, one of the things the president talked about, and it wasn't really widely embraced by some on the investment community that typically voted for Republicans, was, hey, I'm going to get rid of this carried interest loophole that really is helping out the hedge fund guys, et cetera. I'm going to do that. Unless I miss this, and I've looked through this a couple times, nowhere is that mentioned that that loophole is going to get closed. that was one of the only things that they were going to be, if you want to use the word progressive, about trying to put some equity in the system. That's not here either, is it?
That's what we considered the most egregious poster child of tax loopholes. It's people taking advantage of a tax break meant for investors because they talk about investing. It's kind of like if you sold your house and you owned it for many years and your broker thought he should only pay tax at the capital gains rate because you owned the house for many years and your broker got paid a commission. It's absolutely absurd that people who advise other people on how to invest their money should pay tax at the preferential capital gains rate that was meant for investors. And it's just ridiculous.
And you wrote about this, but to try and explain, this isn't just about the morality about, you don't rob to the poor to give to the rich. It doesn't make sense. And what we've talked about already early in this program is, the idea that there's going to be $1.5 trillion in cuts, they're going to look for offsets, and they're going to go to Medicare and Medicaid to come find them. So this is going to be a double whammy for the people who can least afford it. But beyond that, there's a national practical safety issue and security. You can't keep widening the gaps wider and wider. Look around the world and look at history. It never ends well, right?
Yes, I don't want to live in a country with a few rich people and lots of poor people, like apartheid South Africa or a Caribbean island in the 1980s. That's not where I want to live. That's not where I want to bring up my children, and that's not where I want to invest money and build businesses, because that's not conducive to that. If you want to make America great again, you want to have millions and millions of people who have high enough wages to afford to shop in places and buy shoes and ice cream and everything else that people can buy in stores. That's how you make America great again, not by giving a few rich people an enormous tax break, unless you only want to make it great again for those few rich people.
Well, Morris, I certainly wish you the best of luck with it here. We are in interesting times, to put it politely. Morris Pearl, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Coming up next, everybody, we're going to take a closer look to home and, among other things, the ongoing debates about the Mario M. Cuomo Bridge. Even though we don't know what the toll will be when it's actually raised in a few years, we do know that some people owe hundreds, if not thousands of dollars for just crossing it. We'll explain after this.